Our first plenary speaker this morning is Andre Houssney. Andre has been here and shared at ECHO in the past. You can see the profile from his work in Zambia. A lot of challenges and struggles, I'm sure, but remarkable, amazing success that's had huge impact on the lives of over 1,200 farmers, or nearly 1,200 farmers. Everything from enabling them to capture the benefits of organic and fair trade designations, building vertical integrated supply chains, and doing this to substantially increase their incomes while still protecting sensitive forests and other lands. Andre now lives in Colorado and has his family there where they employ intensive grazing. And he's going to be speaking, Danielle, about cattle and a little bit of grazing things in a session tomorrow. So you can see the profile and the life experience, unique in many ways, of Andre Houssney, and I invite you to join me in welcoming him to share about Sambah Naturals and Zambeezi. Welcome, Andre.
Well, thanks for having me, and I love ECHO, and as you'll see in the presentation a little bit, we have been blessed by ECHO a lot in setting up what we've set up and doing what we do. But so we're here, and I have to contextualize to my audience. So I am going to start my presentation with a joke. I'm sorry, but I have to. So why does a chicken coop only have 2 doors? Because if it had 4 doors, it'd be a chicken sedan. So you can read this little cute sign that I saw in Texas. But that's the kind of lead in. So this is my family. I have a beautiful wife, Vanee. She's Thai-American. We talk about unity and diversity. I'm Lebanese. My father's Lebanese. My mother's from New Jersey. Her mom is from Texas. Her dad is from Thailand. So we're a salad bowl. And we have 3 beautiful boys, Elias, Silas, and Ezra. And we live on a farm. We are subsistence farmers. And we like subsistence farming, but I don't like the name. That name, subsistence, it kind of sounds like you're suffering. You're just barely getting by. So I propose to rename subsistence farming abundance farming. And what we do is abundance farming. So we farm everything. We farm for our needs first. So we aim to eat mostly what we produce, and we do have to buy some rice and coconut milk because we've got some Thai in the family, and we sometimes need to buy some pomegranates and things like that because we've got Lebanese side, and that stuff doesn't grow very well in Colorado. But mainly, we eat what we produce. And then out of the abundance of what God provides for us, we go to market, and we focus on marketing through economies of scope rather than economies of scale. So we try to get all of our systems working together, and then when we find our customers that really believe in what we're doing, we don't want to just sell them one thing. We want to sell them everything. We want them to eat as well as we do. So we start with livestock. We're well known for livestock. This year we raised about 50 pigs for slaughter. We raised about 50 lambs for slaughter. We raised 100 broiler chickens, 50 turkeys, geese, ducks for slaughter as well. We have a dairy. We milk cows. We raised about a dozen beef cows, or slaughtered that many this year, but we milk cows every day, and we have a raw milk program. People come by and pick up milk. We utilize waste streams. Very core to our philosophy is that an old farmer told me one time that as a farmer, you only open your wallet to put money in. You never open your wallet to spend money out. Now, I haven't gotten that good yet, but I am trying my best. And you've heard the expression lipstick on a pig. Well, the pig of American waste There is so much garbage produced in this country that where we live in Boulder, Colorado, we can feed 50 hogs, hundreds and hundreds of laying hens, and many other livestock just on waste streams. We have an organic burrito factory in Boulder, and they throw away tons of rice and beans and tortillas and corn chips and Chipotle chicken, and these things we feed to our pigs. So the pig on the left has got the lipstick of tomato paste, and the one on the right has got the beet color. So we even have color options for our lipstick for our pigs. So the beets came from, we actually raised those beets on the farm. We sold them to a pickle company that makes pickled beets. They cut the tops off and cut the bottoms off and cut out little bad bits, and they gave it all back to us, and then we fed it to our pigs. So we sold it, and then we fed it. So utilizing waste streams. We also do the regenerative grazing. We've really found that to be an amazing way of improving the landscape. Just every year we're able to put more livestock on the same piece of ground because it's getting better. And it's a little bit unfair to compare. Does this have a laser pointer? Okay, I'm sure it does, but I'm just not. Oh, there you go, right in the middle. So it's unfair to compare the hilltop to the bottom, but you can see there on the fence line the difference in vegetation that regenerative grazing can bring. And that's really just a technique of observing nature and seeing what God does. And you'll see a theme here in our farm and in our work in Africa. It is unity in diversity. Things work best when they work together. Instead of ramming our solutions down, let's look for those economies of scope where things work best when they're together, and the livestock benefit the grass benefit the soil, the birds work together with the livestock. So one of the you'll see in a second about how we use chickens and herbivores together. So we do some vegetable crops. We have about 2 acres of vegetables, specialty vegetables, and vegetables for our own subsistence. That's garlic right there. This is other vegetables. We raise potatoes. We raise winter squash. We raise our own feed for our cattle. We use flood irrigation for our pastures and our hay fields. This is all stuff that we raise. Fruits, summer squash, winter squash. Tomatillos was one of our specialty crops. We don't try to do a vegetable CSA because it's really hard to keep track of a million things. We do a meat CSA, we do a milk CSA, we do a fermented food CSA, but we try in the field to just do 3 or 4 crops a year, and then we have the kitchen garden. We also do a lot of slaughter and butchery. So we do about a quarter of what we raise, we slaughter. This year we've slaughtered a dozen pigs, a dozen lambs, a couple of steers, 100 chickens, and the 50 turkeys. And this week they're doing geese without me, which is great because geese are a bear to pluck. We make sausages. There's me and my wife exchanging pleasantries as I'm about to chop the head off of a turkey. So that's kind of what life looks like on our farm. We do a lot of value-added products, and we do that because we like to eat them. We dry fruits, we make cider and vinegar, cheeses, bacon, stuff like that. And we do farm dinners on our farm. We do that as a source of income, so people come in and buy a ticket, and they come and enjoy a wonderful meal, which was entirely prepared on that farm. And we also do it as a way to bless our community. So we also have community dinners, and the theme for our community dinners is come to give and come to receive. And so people who come to the community dinners are welcome to bring food that they've grown in their garden or something that they might have bought at a store. They're welcome to come and pitch in helping prepare the food. They can give a donation if they'd like, but if they just need to come and relax and enjoy a wonderful meal, they're also welcome to do that. At our last dinner, we had 175 people show up. It was totally out of control because we had tickets for 75 people, but we went above that, and we didn't turn anyone away. But there was enough for everyone, and we got about $800, $700 or $800 in donations from that as well. So we do enjoy getting together and having community. And we focus in everything we do on our farm on quality rather than quantity, which is the focus of so much agriculture. The egg you see on the right is an organic, free-range, pastured, quote-unquote, egg from Whole Foods. The egg on the left comes from our farm, fed trash and cleaning up after the cows. You can see the difference in nutrient, and you can taste and smell the difference in quality between those two eggs. And so our customers, we have had to, and the thing that is so interesting to me is that it's not only the rich, bolder people that are our customers, but also we have a large number of immigrants that come and buy our eggs at substantially above what they can get them at Walmart because they know what eggs are supposed to taste like. And they miss that. And they're used to spending a little bit more of their income on food. And so we have little old ladies from Guatemala that come every single week or send their son if they're not able to come. And he comes in with his cap on backwards and buys a dozen eggs for $10. That's the cost of a dozen eggs on our farm. And we try to catch the immigrants and say, hey, listen, you only have to pay $5. But it's just a self-serve thing. And we have a lot of different nationalities represented among our customer base of people and they'll come and they'll buy the animals live and process them themselves, and we give them space to do that on the farm. So quality, and the thing about unity in diversity is that it results in quality. The reason that this egg on the left looks and tastes so much better is because that chicken is eating grass. That chicken is eating bugs out of the manure of the cattle. So if we observe in God's nature, we see incredible diversity. You look at the herbivores, the large herds of grazing animals at any grassland around the world, there are birds. There are birds with the herbivores, and after the herbivores go along, the birds come and they scratch at the manure and they pick out the undigested grain that came out of the seed heads of the plants that were being eaten, and they pick out the larvae and the flies that are beginning to hatch out of that manure, and they spread that manure out. So if you've ever been on an American farm and seen the cattle field after the cattle have moved on, even years later you'll see a dried cow pat sitting there taking up space and killing the stuff right around it, and a few weeds will be poking up through. But if a chicken has been there, they'll scratch that manure out to a space about this big, and there'll be a fertile mound of grass in that spot because the chickens have done their work. And so when we have our dairy cows in the barn, we feed them a couple of cups of millet. Now, millet doesn't digest very well in the gut of a cow, so a lot of it goes right through without any processing going on. But when our chickens, which follow behind the cattle, when they so much as see that cow lift her tail, they go running because they know there's treats in there, and they get to work, and that keeps the flies down, and it makes the eggs taste good. So that's unity and diversity. We also are involved in small-scale, open-source farm technology. So this is just an example of three beehives that we've designed. The middle one is actually just a placeholder. I don't have a picture of the actual design, but this one here is a top bar style hive that we've published the designs to. I designed this hive. We published the designs on our website, and you can build that one if you have a table saw in your garage. Well, if you're a beekeeper in Zambia and you use a traditional bark hive like this, you don't have a table saw and you don't have a garage. And so you have to have another solution. So we have designed a top bar style hive made out of bark that is in use among our beekeepers in Zambia, and it is spreading rapidly because it gives all the advantages of management of a top bar style hive, but you can make it out of local materials and you can hang it in a tree. And so we do these. But then here's another situationally appropriate design. I designed this hive. This is the open source, or I was one of the designers in the team. The open source beehive project, you can look it up on the internet. This design, you can download the file. If you have access to a CNC router, you can put a sheet of plywood into the router. You can press print, and it will print out this beehive. It will assemble without glue or screws or nails. And you can put bees in it and get started keeping bees in a Kenyan top bar style hive. So here's African ideas and American ideas and situational appropriate application of those ideas and open source that. And if you're not familiar with what the open source movement is all about, anyone is free to modify, commercialize, or use these designs so long as they make their improvements public for other people to do the same. This one here is part of our initiative called Agronomo. Agronomo is open source, small scale embedded system devices. So these are small, new class of chips, computer chips. They cost about $2 each, and they're programmable. This one is our henmulator. Get it? Henmulator. So it's an incubator that emulates what a hen would do. You can put 600 eggs in it. It's made out of an old freezer, parts from a microwave, and these inexpensive chips. It regulates the temperature and humidity. And if you have a smartphone, it will give you an update if you have an issue that it's out of parameters. And all of these designs we make publicly available. We're developing a number of different of these types of devices right now. We also have a wiki. The RAWiki Project is a regenerative agriculture wiki project. Has anybody in this room been taking notes? I don't see you taking notes. If you have been taking notes, you can help with the wiki. Anyone can edit this, and it's our goal to make it a repository of farming techniques, knowledge, principles, technology, information about different plant and animal species that are useful. Anyone can edit it. You can go and you can go later today and go on the wiki and get yourself a username. You can learn how to edit it. It's not very difficult. And you can contribute what you know. If you have typed up your notes or you plan to type up your notes, go in, make a new page. I went to the aquaponics workshop. Here's my notes. Here's what I know. Now don't worry. This is a starting point. Don't worry if it's not all ready. This is just a place to help start organizing that information and get it out there. Right now, we only have about 110 articles that we've written. I would love to have one on the mulberry tree that we just heard a wonderful workshop on yesterday. Page after page of what we know, we can share with others through the medium of this wiki, and that's the address for it down here. We also are trying to put on there our business models. As a subsistence farmer myself, I have some insight, I think, into what it is like for a subsistence farmer and what works and what doesn't. And there's a lot of accumulated knowledge and experience in this room. But if we don't share it in a very efficient way, it gets stuck in your head and it doesn't get out to where it could be. So let me get on. Oh yeah, a little bit more about our community. We love community. We're 3 families and several single people now that live on the farm. We work together. That's why I can come to a conference and the cows will still get milked. And I can travel to Zambia for weeks at a time because the community is working together. Unity amongst diversity. We have different skills. And so we can do all those different things. I don't really know how to make kombucha. I know in theory, I've never done it, but I drink it every day because it's in our community. So our theme is really cultivating the earth, cultivating people, and cultivating worship. And so we have lots of international students that come to the farm. We have a family with Ethiopian children who grew up on a farm. They're adopted into an American family. They come and work on the farm, tons of volunteers. It's a place for everybody in our community. This is a fun little thing we did. We grew a small field of wheat. We harvested it by hand. We threshed it and winnowed it by hand. We got about 40 volunteers that day. We ground it and made flour. We turned the flour into bread, and we shared communion. And we had 11 lessons on the symbolism of wheat and seeds in the scripture that we did. And that's the kind of thing we love to do. We also have an internship. This is a shameless advertisement. Does anybody recognize this gentleman here? That's Stephen Cluck. After he finished the internship on our farm, he stayed for another year and became our meat CSA manager. Then he heard about this place called Echo, and he applied and came over here. We had a lot of discussion about whether he was going to do that, and encouraged that. And here he came here and just loved his time here, and has gone on to other wonderful things now. And so if you're the kind of person that would love to know what it feels like to cut the head off of an animal, apply for our internship. Okay, so a little bit just more about me, more unity and diversity. This terrorist here, that's my dad. His name is George Houssney. He's a missionary, a Lebanese. He was translating the Bible when I was a child. I was born in Beirut in the middle of the Civil War. This lovely lady is my mom. She's from New Jersey, as I said. And when I was about 6 years old, my father finished the translation of the Bible in the Arabic language. The printing presses in Beirut were all closed. So he moved the family temporarily to Egypt. A week after we moved to Egypt, Israel invaded Lebanon, and we couldn't go back. When we got kicked out of Lebanon, kicked out of Egypt, the borders in Lebanon were still closed, so I ended up in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm still stuck there. But God has used all of that experience. When I got to Boulder, I felt very alienated from the American children. I didn't have much in common with them. There were not very many internationals in that area at that time, and I was depressed. I was fighting a lot with other kids until an old farmer at my church said to my parents, well, if he's not doing anything, I could sure use his help on the farm. And so that's where I began to learn to irrigate, to raise cattle, to milk cows, to train horses, to cut hay, to plant crops. And I loved it so much. I went and applied when it was time for me to go to college. My parents they told me, we're not going to be able to support you to go to college. You're on your own. I found a very strange college called Deep Springs College. It's the smallest college in the United States. It has 26 students. It's free, so that was the big draw to me. But it also has the biggest college campus of any college in America. They have 200,000 acres of desert scrubland, and that's where I learned to ranch and to really run cattle on a big scale. When I got there, they handed me a copy, a 3-ring binder of a book written by Alan Savory of the Savory Institute, who happened to grow up in Zambia and whose institute is in Boulder. God is so strange. And so they said, read this. Here's how we ranch cattle. And that was a pilot project that we ran that was one of the first to demonstrate holistic range management on public and private land in the American West. So out of that university, at that university, God brought me to my knees, because at that time I resented my parents for living a life of faith. I resented the fact that I grew up as a missionary. I wanted nothing to do with that. I wanted to become a farmer, and I wanted to make money, and I didn't want to be bothered with a calling from God. I said, haven't we as a family given enough? And God really brought me to my knees at that time and forced me to choose. And I submitted to God in the end, and I told him, if it's okay, I will give up everything, but if you could maybe when I retire, if I could have a little ground to farm. And so he has blessed me with that much earlier than I thought. But for the next 10 years, I worked with my dad in all over the world in equipping and mobilizing missionaries to go to Muslim countries. And that's what my dad does. And so he sent me to Africa. He sent me all over the continent of Africa to train and equip Africans to deal with the challenges of Islam, to understand Muslims, and to figure out how to effectively reach Muslims for Christ. And in Zambia, I found a community of Christians who were dedicated and driven to give their all to reach Muslims for the gospel. And so I began to work with them. I began to train them on many subsequent trips. But Zambia is a nation of farmers. And so on the side, I began to dabble in trying to understand and work with the farmers that I met there in Zambia. At a certain point, we realized that sending was not happening. You see where this man is pointing? He's pointing to Cairo. That's his vision. He wants to go to the Arab world. They'd been sending missionaries on bicycles to go to Tanzania and reach Muslims there. But their vision was greater. They want to go back to where Islam came from, the Arab world itself. But missionary sending was not happening. And in discussions with the church leaders, this man here is the visionary behind this entire movement, whose name is Pastor Bari Ilunga. That's his wife Frida, and his youngest of 6 is Kuaha. And he has an amazing heart for Muslims. And he said to me, although we are poor, isn't the Great Commission still for us? And that hit me. And so we began to work together. I realized training and teaching wasn't enough. It wasn't going to happen without finances. So I considered briefly fundraising, but I've never been very good at that. And I didn't like the idea. And so we began to talk about business. And in response, after a couple of months, I said, Pastor Bari, you are not poor. You have land. You have water. You have soil. Your nation is rich. You just don't have cash. And so we began to work together, and we began to look at what our strengths were. And this is the thing about unity and diversity. If we see people as projects, we are limiting their capability. But if we see their potential, then we have a different perspective. We have willing, intelligent, and dedicated Christian partners all over the world, a body of Christ. That was our first strength. Second one, we have land. And we read together the passage in Deuteronomy where God describes the promised land flowing with milk and honey, with trees and timber, with crops and grain, with copper in the hills. And I said, this is Zambia. This is the promised land. Favorable climate, great soils, available and underutilized workforce. And then as far as me, I know how to use Google, and I believe myself to have entrepreneurial skills and understand the market. So I said, maybe we can do some business. And so we began, but we also had to reckon with our challenges. For our mission to really be what we envisioned with thousands of Zambian missionaries being sent out, we need millions of dollars, realistically. How are we going to do this? So in order to do that through business, we needed to seek foreign markets. And we had no capital, and I wasn't going to go and get investment for this. I wasn't even sure if this would work at all. So we had to do it differently. We have very high transport costs for sending things out of Zambia. A container of goods going from Zambia to the United States is 4 or 5 times as much money as one from China. And let alone the cost, the capital cost, and the machinery, and all the stuff you need to fill a container with the product. So this was a very big challenge. And then on top of all of that, doing new things is scary. And so these were our challenges. So what was one of our solutions was, before that, so God and entrepreneurs both see things in the same way. They both seek out the undervalued. They delight in seeing treasure where other people see trash. An entrepreneur looks for the difference between the world's value of a thing or the market's value of a thing and its real value or its potential value. God looks at a person and doesn't see their present or their worldly value, but sees their potential, the value that he created with them. And so an entrepreneur and a Christian both see opportunity where things are undervalued. And the main resource that's undervalued in the developing world is the people. And the second one is God's creation. And so we began to seek out ways of turning our strengths, our weaknesses into strengths, and overcoming our challenges. So this is what some of our criteria that we were looking towards. We wanted things that were non-perishable, that were very high value density. If you have to ship, if it costs you $2 a pound to ship something to America, you better not be selling a commodity that sells for $2 a pound, because you will never make money, even if your cost of production is zero. So we wanted things that were $10 a pound, or $50 a pound, or $200 a pound. We wanted things that would leverage our strengths of low labor cost, of our particular climate and soils in our community. We wanted to leverage value adding if possible, and to own our own branding. And so one of the things, do you see what that boy is holding? Does anybody recognize that? That boy is Nswana. What's he holding? Moringa pods. So I found out about this organization called ECHO. I sent off for some seeds. They sent me some other material and some surveys and stuff, and I never filled those out. But I just came and I planted the seeds, and we started a moringa plantation on one of my trips. And when we actually got around to starting the business, we thought we can use moringa oil to create high-value cosmetics and export them. Well, that didn't work, because the seeds were always being stolen by villagers to plant them because they loved this tree. So we've still never we've pressed some samples, and that's a really great failure, because those seeds are all over in the villages. But we never ended up using that in business. But what we did find as a really great avenue was essential oils. They're very highly value dense. 1 liter of essential oils can sell for $1,000 if it's the right kind, if it's organic. So we began to experiment with that and to produce essential oils. And they began producing them. I gave some small seed money. We bought some seeds. We got some from ECHO. We found locally some species that could be interesting in the essential oil market. We began to produce. And every time they had enough to fill a cardboard box, they FedExed it to me in the United States. And even paying those absurdly high freight costs, we were still able to sell it at a profit. And every time we had a profit in our business, one of our principles, first fruits go to the mission, and everything else goes back to the business. And so we just began to grow. And then we began to explore what other export products can we do. And we had to find the right partners. And so this man turned out to be one of the right partners. He was faithful with little over a number of years. When we had the idea to take our essential oils and to make soap, and to ship that soap with other edible oils that could be produced in Zambia. So we began to do that. I bought him a stainless steel pot, a big one, a wooden spoon, a drum of oil that we got from local farmers, some sodium hydroxide. I showed him the recipes. We worked out together colorants and fragrances, essential oils, and other additives to the soap. We came up with the recipes. We got a carpenter to make us a little mold, and he faithfully began to make soap. He refused to take money at first. And I said, eventually you will need to be paid. And he says, I understand, but we have to get this off the ground. And so he would ship me the soap, and I would sell it at my church and sell it at neighboring churches. Pretty soon I started to have to go to stores, and then more stores, and now we're in about 500 stores with our products. And then we began to be able to afford equipment, a mixer. We bought a cement mixer. We lined it with a resin. And they see the ladies there are processing amaranth flowers to get the seeds that we use as one of the ingredients, as an exfoliant. And so we began to produce and to build slowly and grow slowly. We started with this brand, the Zambian Soap Company. It's still going. If we could get more vegetable oil produced in Zambia, we could grow this company by many, many orders of magnitude. Right now, we have orders for 50,000 more bars than we can produce in the coming year. So we're just swamped with demand. The supply is the problem. So if anybody wants to go start a sunflower oil project and help that grow, you'd be very, very welcome. One of our other keys, bargaining backwards. When Kahona and I would talk about how much he would get paid, he would say, well, just give me 500 kwacha per bar. After I would, beg him to accept payment. I would say, 500, that's nothing. Take 2,000. Then he'll say, no, 2,000 is too much. We need more for the ministry. Give me just 1,000. And I'll say, no, you must take 1,500. We're bargaining backwards because we all believe in one another. And we believe in the ministry, and that comes first. And it's not about the money, and it's not about even the development goals. So then we ran into this other product. So when I was in 6th grade, the farmer taught me how to keep bees, and I began to keep bees. And I didn't know that skill would become useful in God's kingdom. But we ran into beekeepers. And I was on some email lists in the United States, and I had gotten a lot of complaining emails from other beekeepers that they were posting to these email lists about the new organic standard that was being developed. And they said, it's too difficult. It's too hard to get organic certificate. The way they have written these standards, it's impossible for us to do that. And what they had written into the standard is that every beehive has to have a 5-kilometer exclusion zone with 100% certified organic production inside that zone. And if there's a road that goes through there, the highway department will have to seek organic certificate for the sides of the road. That's how difficult that is. That's impossible in a developed country. But I began to think, there's whole provinces with one road. The government would probably be okay with me helping them get certified organic for the sides of the road. There's no commercial farming. The farmers in this area can't afford pesticides or herbicides. And so we began to talk about this. God gave some miraculous things that happened on the way. One time I was discussing this with a pastor in the back seat of the cab. The cab driver stopped the cab. He said, please, sir, you must talk with my former boss. I used to drive for him. He's unemployed, but you must speak with him. You must speak with him. And turned out he went to Rutgers University, studied horticulture, and he was well connected with the government and had all kinds of insights for us on different plant species. But he and I worked together. I explained this idea. He took it and ran with it. And before we knew it, an entire province of Zambia was a certified organic zone. It was now illegal. It was a largely symbolic move, but it was illegal to even transport organic excluded inputs in that province. And there's no road that goes through there that just goes in and goes out, so it wasn't a deal to anybody. But that helped. And we didn't have the money at that time to get an organic certificate, but another gentleman did. He was a white farmer from Zambia, very capable, big time scale, and he did it. He got an organic certificate. And in appreciation for the role that we played in this, he allowed us to purchase the beeswax. He was only interested in the honey. Now, for every 80 tons of honey that you produce, you get 1 ton of beeswax. So that's small potatoes for him. But the amount that you can sell the beeswax for compared to the amount that you buy at it, in other words, the profit margin of beeswax is many, many times more than the honey. So we were buying the beeswax, and we started to figure out value-added products we could make. This beeswax, by the way, 10 years later, this stuff looks so horrible. Our quality control is so much better now. But that's what we started with. And then we developed this product, Zambeezi. It's a lip balm. And it's in about 500 stores across the country. It's in the bookstore at Echo. And you can get some. It'll probably sell out if I say that. But anyway, you can also get it online. And we built this brand and built this product, and it just began to sell itself. People loved it. It's a great product. It's a great price. And also in our marketing, we talk about Africa in a different way. A lot of times you see products from Africa, and it's always depressing, the poor people, and we need to help them. But our marketing is very positive. Africa is a beautiful and pristine place with a lot of natural resources, natural products, plant products that come from there. And that is the basis of our marketing for this product. And that product has a much higher profit margin. So we were able to start making more significant amounts of money and to begin to save for future investments. And the chance to have a future investment came much sooner than we expected. In fact, it was a disaster. And this is the way God uses events for His glory. We didn't have our own certificate. We're piggybacking on this other gentleman. We're hearing lots of bad things about the way that he's negotiating with other farmers and things that we don't like. But we really don't have the money. It took us 20,000 euros to eventually get our organic certificate. And that's just a certification cost, let alone all the other costs. But I got on a plane headed for Ndola. It's a small airport in a mining area. And there's only two kinds of people pretty much on planes that go to Ndola. There's miners and there's missionaries. Well, I got on the plane and I sat next to a very well-dressed man. Nice leather shoes, cufflinks, hand-stitched suit. He was reading a book, The Bottom Billion, about the world's poorest people. And so I said, "So you're an executive at which mine?" And he looked at me. He said, "How do you know I'm a mining executive?" I said, "Well, you're not a missionary, and you're not working in the pit. Which mine are you working on?" He said, "Well, it's a new mine." I said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Yeah, it's going to be the largest open pit copper mine in Africa." And I said, "So where is it going to be?" And he said, "Well, I can't tell you that." I said, "Oh, come on. Am I going to go into competition with you? I'm a missionary myself. I'm not going to do that." He said, "Okay, well, I'll tell you." And he mentioned a small little town called Kasisi. And so I said, "Okay, where's Kasisi?" I said, "Oh, you mean that little village that's off the road, on the road to Lumwana, 15 kilometers in?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "I wasn't supposed to tell you that. But I told you because I didn't think you'd know where it was. And even if you're from that area, you probably won't know that village. But I happen to know that village." And I thought, oh no, that's smack in the middle of our producer group. And so what we ended up doing is we had to change the whole purpose of that visit. I realized we're going to lose our certificate. And so we began looking for other places. And on the way out of the country, God had me sit next to a miner, engineer who had a roll of maps. And they were all geological maps. And I said, "I'm going to ask you a strange question. Where is there no chance of being any minerals?" And so he told me. And so we moved there. And that was in the area that we are in is about 18,000 square kilometers. It's almost twice the size of my native country of Lebanon. 3 districts. It's a seasonally dry forest. It's a beautiful place. So we started the road to getting certification. And we got our certification with the help of an American company, which was another miracle. This is what our average farmer is all about. This is Richard Chimbwamba. He's not our average farmer. He's not average at all, but our average farmer has about 12 people in the household. They till less than 2 acres. They have a control over about 20 acres of forest. They're really only partly farmers. They're just as much foragers as they are farmers in the forest. And in 2010, our average farmer, we have to collect all this data for our fair trade certificate, and we do it every year. Our average farmer in 2010 made about $75. You talk about under $2 a day. Well, yeah, we're way under $2 a day. But now we're getting close to, we're over $1 a day now. Our average farmer is making about $390 last year. And that's on less tilling. They used to make most of their money from selling maize, and now it's from honey. And in their culture, it's prestigious to keep bees, but it's not prestigious to farm maize. And so these people are cutting down less of the forest. Their fields are actually shrinking just to what they need for subsistence, but their income is increasing based on selling honey to us. So this is our structural overview. You can look at that later. Just suffice it to say, tax season is very annoying, but we have 4 nonprofits, and 3 for-profit companies. We have a facility in Wyoming where we do our production and our distribution On this side, we have facilities in Zambia. We have the Beekeepers Association, which is the cooperative side. We have the ministry. We have soap production, which is a separate company. And then the big deal, this is what it's all about, is sending missionaries. And we're making about $500,000, between $250,000 and $500,000 a year. Honey is very seasonal, but we have more than that stuck in cash flow. So that's one of our challenges. In the future, we're trying to add more products. We're trying to add vanilla. We're trying to do candles and some other things in the future. Basically, failures, yes, there have been many along the way. I had a huge coffee project fail because the partners, we brought in investment partners in that. They were not really on board with the fair trade or the missionary side of that. They just wanted to make money, and they stole the business idea. They tried to do it themselves, and they failed. But we also were cut out of that. But the Detrofa project, you can ask me about that. That did not work. This one failed because the ginning company just shut down, went into receivership as soon as they had our cotton. The farmers got paid, but the project died. But this one here, ox packs, we had that idea, a great idea. Our farmers have to walk a long way with honey, so we wanted to make ox packs for them. Let's just say that the statement that people made once the ox had charged through the village and gone through the market, bucking all the way, is that they said, is today we have seen an ox dancing. So that idea didn't work. It worked at home, though. My oxen are fine with it. So keys to our success, God's help and guidance, and I can't emphasize that enough. I'm just not smart enough to do all this, but God has put the pieces together in ways I never could have imagined. I believe one of the keys is that we're functioning in a Christian society. Without those shared values and that unity, we would never have been successful. How could we do this and also fight corruption and theft and graft? And we've had none of that. Thank God. Also that we have an external goal. Our goal isn't developing ourselves or our partners. It's missions. We've grown slowly and steadily. We haven't attempted too much at any one time. We've considered each other partners. Rather than I will be the patron and help you, we're working together towards a common goal, unity in diversity. It's been hard, and we've had to persist for a long, long time. And very briefly, we still have a lot of obstacles. And if you have ideas for me, and if you want to come and help out, please do. Our biggest obstacle is marketing and sales. For all these years, we now bring in 80 tons of honey a year. We are in 500 different stores, and we have no sales or marketing manager or director or even strategy. We don't know what we're doing. I don't know why we're still in business. God has really protected us. But we need some help in that department. We need help with new products. We have cash flow challenges. We have committed, for our farmers, we've committed one thing. We've said, they will commit that they will do everything by the rules of the organic standard. We also have to check up on that with internal inspections. But our commitment is we will buy everything that you produce that meets the quality standard at a price that we agree on beforehand. And that gives them the ability to scale up. We've had 1,200 farmers in the co-op for the whole time, and we always thought we'd add more, and we never have, because every year our existing farmers drastically increase their production. That creates big cash flow challenges. We have to meet our commitment to buy all that honey every single year. And the other big challenge is we have too many good ideas, so we would love to give some of them to you if you need any. So please do come to the Meet the Speaker event. And just one last thing, I do have these flyers. If you're interested in finding out more, you can get in contact with me that way. And do come to the grazing workshop that we have tomorrow. And then lastly, I am writing a book about this. It's going to be titled something like How to Save the World and Feed the Planet, or something grandiose like that. But if you're interested in that, I can keep you informed when that comes out, hopefully early next year. But thanks again.